Justice with Judge Mablean will be life because in everything we do, it involves the law.
You came to court to testify about what you heard, what you saw, and what you know.
She's fair.
I don't have a hearing problem. This ear works good, this one works even better.
She's firm.
I'm not responsible for that ticket, and I'm not going to pay for it.
Who says you're not going to pay for it? I make that decision, not you.
She's honest.
What you have to say?
All I have to
Nothing.
say.
This is Justice with Judge Mablean. Christine Carroll is suing Mary Glass in the amount of $2,564. Ms. Carroll claims her former landlord invaded her privacy while she was vacationing in China. Ms. Glass is countersuing for $1,500.
In the matter of Christine Carroll versus Mary Glass, you are suing Ms. Carroll is suing Ms. Glass for $2,564. And Ms. Glass has a counterclaim against Ms. Carroll in the amount of $1,500. Both of you are alleging some wrongdoing on the part of the other. So let me hear from you.
I am a grad student. I rented a room from Mary Glass. Lived there about a year before everything started happening. When I moved in, I knew that I would be going to China the next summer for about 6 weeks, and we talked about being able to sublet the room while I was gone. I was hoping to save a little bit of money by doing that. Again, I'm a grad student. I can't work full time. And when we talked about it, she said that that would be acceptable, but as it came closer, she started to change her mind and backtrack. And so we worked it out. You know, I rearranged my finances so that I could afford it and decided to continue renting the room while I was gone so that I would be able to come back and continue living there. While I was in China, she asked me to pick up some tea for her.
Wait a minute, so you continued to rent the room?
Yes, through those 6 weeks while I was traveling.
So you didn't ask for a sublet?
I didn't ask for a sublet. I mean, I had asked, but she had said no, and so we decided not to. So I was still renting the room at that time.
Okay.
And what we'd worked out, I'd paid her $1,000 security deposit, and it was $1,000 a month. So for those 6 weeks while I was gone, I was going to pick up some tea for her in China, which when she asked, I thought this was a great deal, and then realized that the tea cost $1,500. It cost the amount of rent while I was gone. So I was going to pick up that tea for her, and that was going to be my rent while I was gone.
Was that her agreement with you?
Yes, yes. She's a tea
I just want to know, was that her agreement? You keep saying that's what I was going to do, but you didn't say we agreed. She
had asked that I do this on the understanding, on the condition that that would be my rent.
In exchange, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I picked up the tea while I was in China, sent her the receipt. Everything looked great, looked wonderful.
And what kind of tea was this for $1,500?
I know. It's called Bing Dao. I mean,
it's called Bing Dao, Your Honor.
Oh.
It's this exotic tea that is rich in iron. It's picked from a particular bark and everything. So
okay, so you brought the tea back.
I brought the tea back. I got back, you know, crazy long flight. Got off the airport, came back to the condo, and I was walking up in the neighborhoods. Everybody kind of knows each other. It's part of what's great about this room is it's a really nice community. But everybody knows Mary. And as I was walking back, one of the neighbors saw me and said he was surprised to see me back because he thought I'd moved out because he saw someone else coming in and out of the house. He assumed that my room had been rented out. And I was exhausted. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just trying to go inside and take a shower and, you know, take a nap after my flight. But I got into my room and the sheets were not the sheets that I'd left on the bed. The bed was unmade. Some of my stuff had been moved around. But I figured, you know, I wouldn't worry about it. I was just going to take a shower. So I got in the shower and saw that my favorite soap was almost gone. And it's a bar of soap. It's a special soap. It's kind of expensive.
Didn't cost you $1,500, I hope.
No, no,
okay.
64. But it's, you know, it's my special thing. And it's a bar of soap. You don't use other people's soap, right? In the shower?
No.
So it all just sort of started to click for me that she had been renting out the room while I was gone. So when I got out of the shower and when she got home, I confronted her about it to ask. And she said that she hadn't, but my bed was unmade and my stuff had been moved around and I was worried that some of it might be gone and my soap was gone. And I just told her I wasn't comfortable and that I needed to move out. I felt really violated, honestly, by having somebody else in my space, especially when
But it's not your space, it's her space.
But I'm renting it.
Okay.
I'm paying her money for it. So I moved out and I asked her to return my security deposit. And
She
so
refused.
I'm suing her for the security deposit, $1,000 for that, $1,500 for the tea, and then $64 for my soap.
$1,500 for the tea. Did you give her back? Did you give her the tea?
No, she didn't.
Not yet. I was waiting for my security deposit.
Coming up on Justice with Judge Mablean.
What about the rumors from the neighbors that you had rented the room out?
So I didn't rent the room out, but I did post an ad because the plumbing was so extensive that I wanted to see if I can sublease it for at least 2 weeks to help me to pay for that.
And later,
I decided to run a personal errand, and in doing so, I unfortunately collided with another car at a four-way stop sign. I received pretty severe whiplash. I was given an MRI.
You want him to pay? Didn't you have auto insurance? Oh, you were driving the company
I was
vehicle.
driving the company car, yes.
Justice with Judge Mablean. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean. We're back with the case of Christine Carroll, who is suing Mary Glass for $2,564.
Let me hear you, Ms. Glass.
Okay, while it's true that her bed was messed up when she got back, that's because I was sleeping in her bed. And let me just tell you why.
This is just a two-bedroom condo?
Yes.
Okay.
About a week or so after she was gone, I started having plumbing issues in my bathroom, so I had to use her bathroom. And then the bedroom flooded, so I had to use her bed. I'm not going to sleep on her sheets. I don't sleep on anyone's sheets but mine, so her bed was messed up because it was my sheets. And the day that she was supposed to come back, my cleaning lady was supposed to come because I wanted to look pristine when she got there. At one point, she asked me, why didn't you tell me that you were going to be sleeping in my room? Well, it's my home. I don't need to tell you I'm going to be sleeping in your room.
You don't have to tell her that you're sleeping in her room, but given the fact that she's a tenant and that's her space and she's paying for that space, you can't just go and sleep in her room.
She did not pay for that space.
Yeah.
She was going to pay for that space for the tea that she was going to give to me, but she never gave to me. So it was actually my space.
No, because you had slept in there before she got back. So
Yes.
you didn't know whether she had the tea or not. You slept in there while she was gone.
I didn't have a choice.
Okay,
I was
yeah.
going to tell her that when she got back that I slept in your room, everything is left in order.
I would have said yes.
So
if you'd
once she
asked.
got back and she noticed that her room was in disarray and not like she had left it, did you tell her that you were the person who had been sleeping in her room?
Yes, I did. I explained to her that I had plumbing issues in my bedroom and my bathroom and that I had nowhere else to sleep and nowhere else to take a shower. She said, I don't want to hear what you're saying. I don't believe you.
Okay.
And
what about the rumors from the neighbors that you had rented the room out?
So I didn't rent the room out, but I did post an ad because the plumbing was so extensive that it was going to cost me a lot of money. So I posted an ad because I wanted to see if I can sublease it for at least 2 weeks to help me to pay for that. When the people came to look at the room, it was a couple of students. Individually, they said 2 weeks wasn't enough time for them. So I considered renting it, but I didn't rent it.
Well, what about the neighbors said they saw somebody else coming and going?
That's who they saw. That's who they saw.
But they saw the person coming and going,
That's
they
not
said.
true. That's not true. They saw.
So you never subleased it?
I never subleased it.
But you subleased it to yourself, really.
Well, yes.
Because that room should have remained locked and no one should have been allowed to enter that room except in an emergency in that room since she was the tenant of that particular room. And since you had to do it because there was an emergency related to your room, you should excuse her for her rent for the time that you occupied her space. You can't use it and charge her for it. That's not fair. That's her room. So you were in that room for 2.5, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, how long?
About 2.5 weeks. So even if
Now, at first you said...
No, 2.5 because I was going to sublease it for two.
You said you were going to sublease it for 2 weeks because you had used it before that for your own self.
Yes.
So that equals 4.
I wasn't in there for 4 weeks. So can I ask you a question?
I don't know. Yeah, you can ask. I'm not promising you I'm going to answer it, but you can ask.
So if it was an emergency situation and I had to use a room and I had to use a shower, it was just for purposes of sleeping, just for purposes of bathing, right? If we were to deduct, let's say it was 3 weeks. Doesn't she still owe me money?
Yes, deduct the 3 weeks. She still owes you something. Yes, she still owes you something in terms of the rent. But now she has your tea that she bought for you in exchange for the rent, and she's paid $1,500 for the tea. So 3 weeks of living in the room when you're paying $1,000. Well, her total time gone was 6 weeks, so you owe her $750. That's for the tea. Now her security deposit. Why won't you get a woman back her security deposit?
When she arrived back, she was so angry with me, and she said, "I'm just going to move out because you used my soap." Okay. Someone used my soap. Okay. I never used her soap. Okay. And she didn't give me 30 days notice. And I have a lease right here.
30 days notice is not required for a security deposit.
It's required. She has to give me 30 days notice. Our lease says...
Not for a security deposit.
That's what our lease said.
I don't care what your lease says. That's not what a security deposit is.
She signed it.
I don't care. She didn't understand what she was signing, and you didn't understand what you wrote.
I told her to...
Let me explain.
Okay.
A security deposit is collected to cover damages to the property. And you look and inspect the property for damages when the tenant moves out. And anything that you have to repair that's beyond normal wear and tear that was caused by the tenant, you subtract that from the security deposit. And that's what that is all about. That has nothing to do with notice in terms of rent. So you owe her security deposit. Whether she owes you for rent because she didn't give you the 30 days notice, that's a different issue. But you didn't ask for back rent. You asked to hold the security deposit. All right?
Okay.
That's what you owe her. She owes you, you're going to give her back the tea. Now you can either, and I'm sure you want your tea.
I want my tea.
Right. So the judgment is that for the plaintiff, the defendant has to pay the plaintiff $750, and you have to pay the plaintiff her security deposit, which is $1,000. $1,750 judgment for the plaintiff.
Judge Mablean has ruled the plaintiff has been ordered to give the defendant the Chinese tea. The defendant has been ordered to pay $1,750.
Mary, I think the judge's ruling was fair, but I wish you would have told the truth in there and just been honest.
You know, Christine, I am done with this. I just look forward to you giving me my tea, okay?
Coming up.
Now, in the middle of the job, he went to go get his wife's ring reset.
Yeah, he went out of the scope of the employment and basically went on his own little way out of the directive of the day's job and got into an accident while he was doing that.
Justice with Judge Mablean. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean. Stuart Linman is suing Dave Briarwood in the amount of $2,190. Mr. Linman claims he was injured while driving a company-provided vehicle and says his former employer should pay for his medical expenses.
In the matter of Stuart Linman versus Dave Briarwood, you're suing him for $2,190 for medical expenses. You had a car accident.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, tell me what happened.
I was servicing a client. I had just got done with that job, and I had some time in between for my next client, and I decided to run a personal errand. And in doing so, I unfortunately collided with another car at a four-way stop sign.
Well, when you were servicing a personal client, what kind of work do you do?
Computer technician.
And you work for the defendant?
I did, yes.
So you make personal calls to homes and offices?
Correct.
And why did you do it on company time?
Well, so about a year ago, Dave came to me and propositioned me with a job, saying, you know, he's starting his own company. We went to college together, and I began working for him. And 2 weeks into that, the hours started to, it didn't pan out. It was too good to be true. My first week I worked, I believe, 50 hours. Second week I worked 64 hours. Woo. I had expressed, deep concern about these egregious hours, physically and mentally exhausting. And in that process, I had missed some obligations, that were required of me being a family man, one of them being my wife's anniversary. So I wanted to get her a surprise and had her diamond ring reset. And that's what I was doing in between client visits.
Resetting the ring?
Yes.
Coming up.
So why you couldn't go back to the office and get your car and do it?
It would have just killed too much time, and then I would have been late to my other appointment, which I ended up being late to given the accident, so.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean. We're back with the case of Stuart Lindman, who is suing Dave Briarwood for medical expenses.
So what's the $2,190 for?
Medical expenses. I received pretty severe whiplash. I was given an MRI.
You want him to pay? Didn't you have auto insurance? Oh, you were driving the company
I was driving the company car, yes.
Talk to him, Mr. Briarwood.
Yes, basically, Your Honor, like I said, I hired him about 6 months ago. Within the time frame of 2 weeks, I let him know that this is going to be a very, very time-consuming job, long hours, a lot of time to get it up and running. Got to. He's my only employee. I brought him on, you know,
How long had you been running the business before you hired him?
About 2 months.
Oh, so it was a new startup.
Yeah, I realized I couldn't handle all the workload myself, and I wanted somebody I could trust. And like Stuart had said earlier, we graduated college together, both got our computer science degrees. And in school, you know, he was very smart, always did his job the correct way. He just lacked drive.
So you went with computer engineer, you went with IT, you went a job, you opened a business.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you offered him a job and you accepted, and now in the middle of the job, he went to go get his wife's ring reset.
Yeah, he went out of the scope of the employment and basically went on his own little way out of the directive of the day's job and got into an accident while he was doing that.
He wasn't even going in the direction of the next client?
I had about an hour and a half to kill. I was going to be in that direction.
So why you couldn't go back to the office and get your car and do it?
It would have just killed too much time, and then I would have been late to my other appointment, which I ended up being late to given the accident, so.
Judge Mablean's verdict when Justice with Judge Mablean returns. Promotional consideration provided by. You're watching Justice with Judge Mablean.
He's not responsible because in terms of workers' comp, because the accident did not occur during the course and scope of your employment. It was a personal errand during business hours, but it was totally unrelated to his employment.
I understand that, Your Honor.
But you just think he should do it out of friendship?
Not out of friendship or goodwill, just like I said, I expressed to him multiple times.
But even though you weren't at work, and even though, I mean, you were not within the course and scope of the work business, the accident was your fault.
It was someone else.
You tore up the company car. He could charge you for tearing up the company car. Did he make you repair the company car?
Not yet, but who knows what he'll do.
But he hasn't charged you and asked you to pay for the company car, has he?
No, not yet, Your Honor.
So you need to quit while you're ahead. Judgment for the defendant.
Judge Mablean has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
You know, I really wish the judge would have listened to reason, but what you were asking was way over the top.
I'm glad at the way it worked out, man. Good luck in the future.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.